Alrighty, so in this video we will be looking at writing linear equations for application problems. So it's going to be using those skills of using a point and a slope in order to write an equation and then interpret it. So in this first example, we see in addition to his weekly salary, Ethan is paid $16 per delivery. Last week he made 5 deliveries and his total pay was $215. So Ethan, to interpret this situation, to understand what's going on here, he gets a weekly salary. And then on top of that, he gets $16 per delivery. Okay? So this $16 per delivery, that's the rate at which he is receiving more money. He's receiving money per delivery on top of that weekly salary. So that's going to represent my slope. That's my slope. And then I see in this next sentence that last week he made 5 deliveries. His total pay was $215. So that's a point. If I plug in 5 deliveries, I'm going to get out $215. So in A, we want to write a linear equation to find Ethan's total weekly pay, which is going to be represented by T, if he makes D deliveries. So the points are going to be in the order D, comma, capital T. So if I were to write this linear equation in point slope form, what this is going to look like is T, because T is representing our Y, T minus the T coordinate, which was 215, equals my slope, which was 16, because it's $16 per delivery. It's the rate at which it's increasing, times the quantity D, because D is playing the role of our X, D minus the D coordinate, which is 5. Okay, so there's our setup in point slope form. Now what I got to do is distribute. So I've got T minus 215 equals 16D, and then 16 times 5 is going to give me 80, so 16D minus 80. To close this out, I'm just going to add 215 to both sides, and so the equation of my line is T equals 16D, and then negative 80 plus 215 is going to give me positive 135. So there's our equation. That represents the situation of his total weekly pay after he makes a certain amount of deliveries. Okay, the next question is asking us to use our model, to use T equals 16D plus 135, because it asks us what's his weekly salary. So if you remember, he gets a weekly salary no matter how many deliveries he makes. So basically, this is asking us for the y-intercept. And the y-intercept here is the b value in y equals mx plus b. So his weekly salary is $135. Okay? Because if you make 0 deliveries, then this part's going to go away and leave you just with 135. Okay, so you got to make sure you understand what the different parts are saying. That b, that y-intercept, that's where he starts. And then the slope of 16, that's $16 per delivery. So if I use this equation now, I'm going to use it to predict how much money Ethan will earn in a week if he makes 8 deliveries. So 8 deliveries, I am going to plug in for D. So his total amount that he earns is going to equal 16 times 8 plus 135. So if I take 16 times 8, I add 135, T is going to equal 263. So he will make $263 if he makes 8 deliveries. So that's how you do a problem like that. Go ahead and try the next practice problem on your own. Alrighty, so there you see the work for this practice problem. Make sure you understand the different numbers and what they're meaning. So $2 for every mile, that's your slope. That's the rate at which it's increasing. And then that 12 miles, your total charge is $28.50. That's a point. So you can use your point slope form, or if you prefer slope intercept form, you should get the same answer. You get y equals 2x plus 4.5. And you have to understand that y-intercept, that is the boarding rate. That's the boarding rate, which is what you have to pay just in getting in the cab. So make sure you understand that. Draw your eye down to D. Make sure if you are interpreting a point, you're using those numbers in your sentence answer. So make sure your explanation looks like mine for letter D. Okay? So let's move on to the next type of problem then. A local rec center offers a yearly membership and charges an additional fee for exercise classes. If you sign up for 4 classes, your total cost is $285. If you do 10 classes, your total cost will be $315. So just at first glance, we don't know what the slope is. We don't know what the cost per class is. We also don't know what the yearly membership is, just to join. So what we have instead is we have 2 points. We have that 4 classes cost $285. And we have 10 classes cost $315. So if I pull those 2 points from this problem, what I can do is actually find the slope of this situation. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to subtract the y's, and then I'm going to subtract the x's. And if I do that, I'm going to get 30 divided by 6, which is going to equal 5. So the slope is 5, or 5 over 1. What does that slope mean? Interpret the slope. What does that mean in the context of this problem? Well, it means that, so you got to think about, what is the recurring charge here? What is the charge that's happening more than just once? And the charge that's happening is the charge or the fee for exercise classes. So the slope is saying the cost per class is $5. Okay, so it's $5 per class. So if I want to write an equation now in slope-intercept form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my points. I'm going to pick this one. Doesn't matter which one you pick. And then I'm going to find the equation of that using point-slope form. So I'm going to take y minus the y-coordinate equals the slope times x minus the x-coordinate. When I do that, distribute on the right-hand side, add 285 to both sides, and I'm going to get, that's right, y equals 5x plus 265. So remember, the slope represents the cost per class. So the 265, well, that's going to need to represent the yearly membership cost, the fee just to sign up. You're not taking any classes, but just to be a part of that rec center, you're going to have to pay $265. So how much does the yearly membership cost? The yearly membership costs $265. Okay, so now I can use my equation. I can use this model right here, this linear model, in order to interpret or predict things for the future. If Tom, so like an E, if Tom spent $500, how many classes did he take? So if Tom spent $500, am I going to plug that in for Y or for X? So it's important to know that up here, X represents the number of classes, the number of exercise classes, and Y represents the total cost. And if you understand what those variables represent, then you'll know where to plug in that 500. that 500 is Tom's total cost. So I'm going to plug that in for y. And if I plug that in for y, then I have an equation here where I need to solve for x. And if I do that, I'm going to subtract 265 from both sides. So 500 minus 265, that's going to give me 235 equals 5x. So if I divide by 5, x is going to equal 47. So Tom took 47 exercise classes. So this type of problem is a little bit more involved because you need to find the slope first. You need to pull the coordinates from the problem and then use that to find the slope, interpret the slope, and then write the equation. And then you can understand what the slope and the y-intercept mean, and you can use that model to answer questions. So go ahead and try the next practice problem on your own. Alrighty, so check your work on that one. One key thing here is this part right here where it says the plant started off at a height of 60. So if that's your starting position, that's your y-intercept. So that's how I got this first point of 0, 60. Okay, double check that. Make sure you understand what the slope represents. Interpreting the slope is a huge concept during these problems. If you're all good, let's go on to the last type of problem. So in this, let's read it and let's understand what's going on here. So each CD in a store costs $10. Each book costs $6. If you want to spend exactly $32, define your variables and write an equation modeling this situation. So everything up to this point we've written in slope-intercept form. Okay, but there is another form of a linear equation. It's called standard form. And standard form happens when both of our x's and our y's are variables that are not necessarily independent or dependent on each other. So they're going to be on the same side. So what does that look like here? Well, let's call x our CDs and our books we're going to call y. Okay? And how much is it per CD? Well, it's $10 per CD. So that's going to look like 10x. And then we have each book costs $6. So if I take the number of CDs that I purchase and I take the number of books that I purchase and I want to figure out how much I'm going to spend in total, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those two together. So I'm going to take 10x plus 6y, and I want to spend exactly $32. So after I add those together, I want it to equal 32. Okay, so there is this linear equation in standard form. So this is called standard form. And it's going to be very helpful in future videos with some word problems that we deal with. But standard form is when you have two different variables that are kind of on their own. They have their own kind of idea that it costs something per variable. So use that idea. If you have two variables and each of them costs something or there's a number attached to it, you might be using standard form. So you want to see if you can set something up in standard form. So go ahead and try the practice problem, which also has some follow-up questions for you to try out to finish out this video. Alrighty, so check your work on that. This is another standard form equation because you got two variables, thin crust and deep dish pizzas. Both have a number attached to them, so you can write this in standard form where they equal a total. Check your answers. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know. Other than that, be good, stay good, and I'll see you later.